All right, welcome to Live for the Lulz and All Malone's first State of the League video. This format is a first run, so if you guys like the format, we're going to be doing a lot more videos. Let us know so we can adjust the format. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, and we'll continue to use it as we go along.
That being said, let's get right into it. Let's take a look at these standings from Stage 1 to Stage 2.
All right, so what we have here in front of us, we have the Stage 1 standings on the left-hand side, and then you're looking at the Stage 2 standings at the end of Week 2. Now, it's Week 3, obviously, right now, but those standings are changing. Everybody's played more games or less games, so we're using the end of Week 2 as the best indicator. Now, remember, the Stage 1 standings are the Mercy meta, what ended up being the Mercy Junkrat meta at the end, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then the right-hand side, where Mercy is now no longer as powerful, so it's post-Mercy nerf, but it's pre-Sombra buff.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff actually looks very similar. There's a few things that jump out to me. The first one being the Houston Outlaws. Looks like they took a drop from Stage 1 to Stage 2. Do you have any idea what would have caused this drop?
Yeah, so the Houston Outlaws drop from 2nd place at the end of Stage 1 all the way down to 5th place, and Seoul Dynasty actually rose at the same time. So you see a flip-flop in those two positioning. The Houston Outlaws drop actually had to do with several factors, but the most important thing is Junkrat got nerfed.
You think the Junkrat nerf actually hurts them that much? What do you think about the Mercy meta? You think the Mercy meta is affecting their play as well, or is it solely on the second?
Everything is going to fall into, why a team does better or worse, given the high level of play and all the interactions that happen between these different heroes. You change a comp, and it's going to change how you play. But all in all, you see them even this week, they're so much more comfortable when they get to play the Junkrat, when the Junkrat is a factor. But he's not as strong now against the dive, so he doesn't get played as often, and they're not reacting to that change as well as they should be. I did Seoul Dynasty go from 5th place to 3rd place. It's not like it had to be a swap. They climbed on their own. They went from +9 differential on maps to +23 at the end of Week 2. So this is half of stage, and they've already put up 5 more points than they put up entire Week 1 positive map differential.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is actually on their strength of schedule. They haven't played anybody up to this point, which they have a test coming up versus New York. But up to this point, they've been playing against the bottom dwellers. No offense to the Shanghai Dragons and the Florida Mayhems of the world. But when they have the playmakers such as Fleta and all this stuff, they're not having to rely as much on communication and teamwork to beat these teams as they were having to play against the good teams in New York, Excelsior, and, your London Spitfires.
So you think they look better than they are right now?
No, I think Seoul's good. I definitely think Seoul's a good team, and I think that Toby being able to be on the Lucio more because he's a Lucio main is helping, getting them off the Mercy a little bit, relieving some of that pressure, allowing their playmakers to really play characters that can affect the game in more than just a resurrecting sort of way. But I think strength of schedule has a lot to do with their move and how drastic it has been. I do think that they will continue to move up, and I do think they're a top 3 team. That being said, we'll see when they play New York how good they actually are.
Yeah, and that's to be said, comparing to New York has been consistent. They have seen a jump in differential this side, but it's not outside of what they saw in Stage 1. You could say that they're the most stable team since Stage 1 in the standings, and this is kind of what we're looking at as we look at these spreadsheets. They're not just a bunch of numbers on a page. Consistency from week to week is something that only New York Excelsior has really shown us. The only other thing that stands out to me on this list, and it may not have to you, I'm not sure, I saw the LA Gladiators were -10 differential all of Stage 1, so they put -10 up. Now Week 2 of Stage 2, they're already back to 0, which means they are +10 differential on this side, which is the same as the 6th place team put up all stage last time. So they are essentially looking at on pace to be New York Excelsior from Stage 1. They're putting up 10 in 2 weeks.
No, and there's something to be said about that too, because the teams they're playing are not pushovers. They played London. They played Valent. These are top 4 teams that they played against and that they've beat handedly and made them look bad. I think that addition of getting Fisher from the London Spitfires really pushing them forward. I think the fact that they're willing to open up, I don't know how many of their games you've watched, but they open up their champion pools a lot. They brought out May. They played Doomfist. Other teams are not doing this. They are playing this and people do not know how to stop it. They're playing with confidence and that's dangerous. That's a good team.
Their games definitely are interesting. If you haven't checked out some of their games, you should probably check out some of their games and let them know. I've watched a few myself, not nearly as many as this man has, but they do some exciting things. And why do you think that is? Like, why can they make that work when everybody else is kind of falling into the meta? Like, outside of like some occasional swaps, in general, everybody's on either the triple tank or the quad tank, or they're on dive, or they're on counter dive. You don't really see a lot of variation. Like, we talk sometimes about comps, and we talk about Lucio dive or Moira dive. Like, which one are they playing this time?
I think the reason that they're willing to separate is they're a 4-6 team. At that point, they're bottom 5 teams right here on our thing. So, like, what do they have to lose? They're already down there. Why not experiment? Why not see what works for you? And that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, I think Fisher has opened up a lot of space for their DPS. Asher looks better on the Tracer than he looked in Stage 1. He's looking like a top 5 Tracer in the world. Well, Hydration playing the Doomfist and Genji has opened him up. He's getting huge, like, blades off. And I think a lot of that has to do with the main tank Fisher coming in and really playing Winston well.
Okay, so we could say that attributes a lot. Like, the space created can do a lot for a lineup. It can do a lot for DPS especially. But also, they could be just getting more comfortable, too. These are people who are coming into the league, obviously, for the first time. But either way, definitely a team to watch, and we're going to continue doing that.
So there's a few teams that are getting new people in Stage 2 that have not fully came into to play yet. Who is your favorite one? Who would you like to see? Who do you think is going to affect the team the most? Are there any of these teams that are getting new players? And I'm mainly talking about Shanghai and San Francisco here, guys. Do you see either one of these teams making a move from the bottom of the standings to the top?
All right, so this guy is playing a trick on me here. He knows that I'm excited to see Sinatra play. So I obviously want to see Sinatra come in. But I think that the result of Sinatra coming in is almost a foregone conclusion. He's going to play. He's going to play Tracer extremely well. There are some concerns about him not having much of a professional play background, and that might cause him not to be as good as he is in solo queue. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. Like, you look at Grandmaster play, and a lot of it is going to be on a similar coordination level. It's obviously not going to be exactly the same. It's not going to be on that stage, but I think he's going to perform. So I don't think that's an issue. I'm excited to see the Shanghai Dragons pick up and how they affect this bottom tier team. They went from a negative 30 map differential to now a negative 49 map differential. They're on pace to put up worse numbers than they put up in Stage 1, which means that they have nothing to lose. So if we see any improvement in that team at all, it'll be stimulating.
There's 4 players coming in for Shanghai. Guguri, she's a Zarya main. You have Sky, who's a Zenyatta Ana main. You have Ado, who's a DPS main, Genji and Tracer, and then Fearless, who's a main tank. So a lot of Winston, it looks like, and a lot of Reinhardt.
Now, Ado gets highlighted for his Genji Tracer, to throw this in the side, but he's actually a completely flexible DPS player. If you look at anything on his record, he can play almost any DPS out there. So that's a lot of versatility, I think. And I think Guguri coming in on the Zarya is going to open them up a little more. I don't know if they're going to utilize her or not, but at the way they're standing, that's the #1 Zarya in the world. I think you'd be a fool not to play with your comp a little bit and see if you can't make it work.
So this poses the question: do they get a match win? Do they get a best out of 5 or best out of 4?
I don't know, man, but I'm really hoping so. I mean, you got 4 new players coming in. You got a lot of talent. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot from them in Stage 2. I think Stage 3 or the last week of Stage 2, maybe beginning of Stage 3, you're going to see them having had a few games under their belt and got to play. If they step out of their comfort zone, if they play comps based on the players they have and not the meta, you may see them take more than 1 match win home.
Yeah, I'll say I'm excited to see him play King's Row. I think that's a notable Zarya and Reinhardt map, and I think that's going to be nice if they get both those tanks in there, especially putting Guguri and the Zarya that I've seen her play. It looks really, really good. I would like to see that. I think they could easily take that map, but a match is going to be tough. Back to the San Francisco Shock, though. Sinatra. I've heard Sinatra, and I've seen a little bit of his play, and he's definitely a good tracer, and like borderline great. But what do you think is going to like separate him on this stage when you have, you know, your Munchkins, your Bunnies of the world, your Sable Bees? Like, what is Sinatra one of those, or is he a bottom tier tracer in this league?
You got Bunny. He does really, really well. You have Sabiobi, who's done really, really well. Sinatra is known for his consistency, and he's known for his ability to outplay multiple players at a time. So he's that tracer who's the last man on a point with 3 players on a point, and you see him sometimes take the point. He's not the tracer who goes in and one-clips somebody and then his team cleans up the fight for him. He stays in, he does his job, and he's consistent. Does he die? Does he make mistakes? Yes. Everyone does. Everyone gets caught. But he consistently carries his team.
Do you think he's better than Dante?
I think that Dante started out as one of the worst tracers in the league opening week, and I think that he has come into his own as a tracer, that he's doing a lot better. You see him actually make plays for his team as opposed to kind of being there and supporting the team and helping finish kills. But I don't think that I've seen Dante play at a level that I've seen Sinatra play yet. Again, now Sinatra play, all we've seen is outside of the league. We haven't seen him play on that professional stage, so we don't know if it's going to be the same. But if it comes up at close to the same level as he's putting up in solo queue right now, I think Dante is going to start seeing a little more of the bench warmer.
So looking at it right now, San Francisco's number 9. Do they push for a top 6 spot?
I think that if they utilize these players correctly, I'm saying that a lot, I realize that, but you have Super coming in, you have Architect, you have Moth. These are players that add a lot of versatility to their roster, which is a problem, which we'll talk about in a second. And if you see these teams utilizing the versatility that they now have, I think that you see this becoming a lot more even league and a lot less dominated by those top 4 teams. So that being said, like I just mentioned, we're going to talk about it later, so let's talk about it now. The top 4 teams on the roster, right, have Korean players, have more than one Korean player in their consistent starting lineups, and the top 3 teams are completely Korean. So what is keeping these Korean teams on top right now? Why are they dominating all these Western players? The Chinese team. Why is everybody falling second to the Korean teams right now?
I think the Korean dominance, which it is showing, if you look at the Stage 2 standings, the top 3 teams are all Korean, and I think a lot of it has to do with depth. The fact that they have multiple people who can play multiple heroes in different situations on different maps, and that's allowing them to open up to more versatile comps.
So are they that much better than the Western teams, than the Chinese are? What is it?
I think they are better. I think they have depth. They have depth that the other teams do not have. Whereas Houston is struggling to find a second DPS, a team like Seoul has 3 or 4 DPS that can pop off and play different characters at any given point on any map. And that's what's separating them and pushing the cream of the crop to the top. Now, do I think the Western teams can catch up? I definitely think that they can, and I think that having, good competition from these Koreans the way that they are is going to push the Western Overwatch even further, and then potentially make your teams like Houston and your Philadelphias of the world a little bit better.
So the follow-up question then is it depth? Is it the way that the teams are put together? Is it on the managers? Or is it an individual skill difference? Do you think they are individually better than these other players? Or do you think that it's just cohesiveness, the fact that they're able to bring that depth and bring that teamwork that they already had from previous experience into this league?
Well, all of that's going to make you a little bit better than the other person, so I think there's touches of all of that in there, but as far as an individual skill difference, it's not that drastic of a skill difference between, Libero and, say, Jake.
I completely agree with that, and I'm on the same page, honestly. I think that a lot of these new players coming in at the bottom, and as they shore up their weaknesses, and they give themselves some depth at the bottom of the standings, it's going to make a huge difference. I think that this might become a little bit of a more even league, and I'm really excited to see it. I know I've said it. I'm excited to see Sinatra play. I'm excited to see Gregori play, and I'm excited to see if these new players and the depth that's coming into the league causes them to adjust this rigid sort of dive meta that we've been seeing. Maybe the comfort on these new heroes and their ability to react to a dive like they do in solo queue will actually make a difference. Who knows?
A team that we have not even mentioned is the Dallas Fuel. And what are your feelings on the Dallas Fuel, this whole XQC drama?
Dallas Fuel's in a weird place. They just released XQC for, a number of issues, and the replacement coming in for XQC was OGE. Now, there was talk that they were also going to talk about releasing/trading their other 2 tanks at the moment to unknown teams. That was just talk. One of whom was their translator on the team, who talked across the aisle between the Korean players and the Western players, because he's the only one on the team that speaks both English and Korean. So now that XQC is gone, OGE was coming in and has now been accused of boosting other accounts?
Yeah.
Supposedly there's a receipt that has surfaced saying that he took payment for boosting accounts from a major Korean company. Now, it's in Korean and it's been translated by someone else, and it's a leak. It's not come from a direct source, so we're not sure if it's an actual thing or not. Is calling OGE into suspicion. Now, maybe it's something that came out because, he's supposed to be a professional player now. Maybe it's slander. We don't know yet. But if it happens, then what do they do?
Well, he's obviously gonna get hit with the ban. The question is how many games? How many games do they?
Well, the last
how
player
serious is boosting?
that got banned for boosting had a 30-game ban. You talk about 40 games in a season. 30 games leaves you 10 games to play.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
we don't have left at the moment. So that's talking about being banned into the beginning of next season.
So then does Dallas Fuel even sign OGE? That would be the question. And that being said, Taimu has been accused of boosting as well. Dallas Fuel has a bunch of stuff going on. That's stuff that we're going to have to get into in another video, truthfully, because they have a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, I agree. So as it stands, like, that's how we see the league as it is. You know, back to the standings again. Obviously, the results speak for themselves. The top 3 teams are looking pretty dominant right now. The middle of the league is doing, you know, pretty well unless they play against the top tier teams for the most part. LA Valiant can beat anybody, but doesn't always beat who they should. In the bottom tier, you know, the depth issues we talked about, and they have some fixes coming in for some of those teams. We hope that we see a lot more depth coming in the league. We hope to see some variation based on these new players, but we'll just have to watch it and see what happens. Future videos, we're definitely going to be talking about Dallas Fuel and what's going on with them, and we're going to be talking about the Jake Rat. What can we do to fix that situation? The Houston Outlaws, like, what do they have going for them? What could they have going for them that they don't already?
I mean, they have a lot. I think they need to open Jake up more. Like, put him on the Genji. We've seen a few games where he actually looks serviceable on the Genji. He's not the world's best Genji, but he doesn't have to be, because the tank play and everything for Houston is so good that if they just allow him to play something like the Genji, get him off of the Tracer, you know what I'm saying, let Linkser play the Tracer, then I think that will open their team up, and you could see them easily push back into the top 4. I think they're probably a top 4 team.
I think that's going to be a good video, guys. So let us know what you think about this video. Again, give us a like, give us a comment. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Hopefully we'll see you back again.